I saw. Well, first of all, I saw that the Rotten Tomato score is about the same as Morbius. I don't know if it's dropped below it at this point. But last I checked, it was at 15%.
It's at 17 last I checked, and that was sometime today.
Yeah, this was like when was it? This was like 3 days ago. So
yeah. I think it's at 17 now. I'll double check that right now, but yeah, it was definitely still low, and I think it is higher slightly than Morbius, the critic score. The audience score is a little bit. It is at 17%. Audience score is 66%. Which is up. It was 58% when I saw it a couple hours ago. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Ultimate Black Panther and other comics later, but I have some thoughts about Madam Web because I just got out of from this about an hour ago. So yes, it is Madam Webuary. That's not my joke. I stole that from the Weekly Planet podcast, which everybody should go listen to. It's a great podcast. I don't want to plagiarize their joke without giving them credit, but yes, it is Madam Webuary, and so yeah, I just saw Madam Web. It is day of recording. It is the opening day of Madam Web. It is February 14th. And okay, so here's the thing with this movie. It is a disaster. Okay. It's not good. But I had so much fun watching this. It's so funny. Not intentionally, but it's so funny. I will say I think it is better than Morbius. I think they're about the same level of bad, but Morbius is boring. And this is, I think, unintentionally funny. It is unintentional comedy gold. So I think that alone gives it a step up over Morbius. It's not as good as Venom, as either of the Venom movies, but I liked it more than both of the Venom movies. Like, I recognize that from a more objective standpoint, even though objectivity doesn't exist when it comes to movies. I recognize that those movies are better put together. They are more coherent. They just make, they are better made movies.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. Madam Web is so funny. The dialogue is atrocious, but in a really funny way. Like, the main villain, every time it would cut to him, I would just burst out laughing because he would say the dumbest shit right off the bat to start the scene. It's ridiculous. The dialogue is also not only because the dialogue's bad, but it's also paced badly. Like, the rate at which people are talking and responding to each other just feels off. It feels like there's something like they just should not. Feels like something is missing there. And then the other thing is the camera work is so bad, and some of it's fine, but it won't stop fucking spinning. The camera is just spinning all the time. It does the like Michael Bay spin around the main character thing multiple times, unironically. There's a point where a car is starting up, and the wheel is turning. It's a shot of the wheel turning, but the camera is rotating with the wheel, and it's like it's so bizarre. And then like that shot is like half a second. It's super quick, and then it cuts to another shot that's also spinning, but it's like a different speed. So it's like you get this not very like fast, nausea-inducing scene of the shot of the wheel, and then you get whiplash because it's so quick to another nausea-inducing scene of a camera doing some weird shit. And it's also doing all these weird like zooms in and out in the middle of a shot, which I think they're supposed to be dramatic, but I just could not help laughing uncontrollably whenever that happened. I saw this with a friend, so he can attest to this. I spent the entire movie either laughing uncontrollably or with my head in my hands face palming. They try to do the great power with great responsibility line, but they like reverse it. It's and this is like when you take on responsibility, great power will come or something. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then also, I mean, I guess like full spoilers, nobody cares, and I'm not gonna like. There's not anything like major spoilers in this movie, but Uncle Ben is in this, which I didn't know going in. He's like he's like a supporting character, and I actually don't, like that actor. That performance is kind of the only good performance in this movie. I think the performances are pretty bad. And I'm not blaming any of the actors for that. Like, clearly this was a disaster from the start, and I think they did the best they could with it. But I don't think any of the performances are very good. But so there's a point towards the end of the movie where his sister has a baby, and they're like, "Oh, Ben's loving being an uncle," Get it, everybody. This is probably Peter Parker over here, you fucking nerds. And then the other thing, which I did not know going into this blew my mind. The character's name in this, and this could be the case in the comics, I don't know, but because I haven't read much of Madam Web. But if it is, they should have changed it. Her name is Cassie Webb. I couldn't believe it when I heard that. I was like, no fucking way is her name Cassie Webb. So yeah, and also the trailers kind of marketed this movie as having a pretty heavy focus on the 3 Spider-Women along with Madam Web. They don't suit up in this movie. The only times we see them in costume are in visions that Madam Web has, and that's it, which is just like kind of insane as well. And then like this movie's not all bad. Like there's some things I kind of like. I think there's a couple points where there's some kind of cool like visual stuff going on. I think one of the first scenes where she's kind of having to deal with her powers for the first time. I think that scene is kind of actually not bad. I think that's a pretty decent scene. And then I also think the score is not bad. But yeah, it's kind of a disaster. It is. I don't think it's good, but I really had fun watching it. Again, like of the movies in the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel characters, which is the real name of this universe, I think this is my favorite. It's not the best, but I think it is my favorite. So yeah, if I were to, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10. If I were to base this on how much I enjoyed it, I would probably give it like a 6. But if I were to evaluate this based on how good I think it actually is, I would give it like a 2. So I'm just gonna go in the middle and say 4. Yeah, it's so funny though. I highly recommend it. Don't spend money on it. Do not pay to see this movie. But when it comes to streaming, I think everybody should watch it because it is very funny. I think. Damn.
I was really looking forward to going to the movies. At least, I knew this movie was gonna be bad. Don't get me wrong. But just hearing you say don't even bother spending money on it, man, that's turning me away. That's.
I mean, listen, like that's the case with all these Sony movies, though. Like, you shouldn't pay to see Morbius. Like, you shouldn't pay. No. I don't think you should pay to see the Venom movies.
I thought the first. I still stand by. I still think you're wrong.
I know you do. I think the first movie is worse than the second. I think that's
just crazy to me, man.
I don't know. I don't like them. I think they're bad. Yeah, so that's my Madam Web review. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the Deadpool and Fantastic Four casting stuff?
I was literally going to say, switching to a more positive note.
Yeah,
that's a forecast.
What are your thoughts on this?
All right, so I love Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm.
I think she's great.
I think she's going to be great.
Yeah.
I love Pedro Pascal. I'm worried about his Reed Richards a little bit.
Have you and I talked about this off air or no? Because this has been rumored for a little bit. It's only confirmed today.
Yes, it has been rumored for a little bit, and yes, it was confirmed today. And I love, like I said, I love Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
I'm just a bit worried about how his Reed Richards is going to be.
Here's what I think with Pedro Pascal. Mm-hmm. I love him, obviously. He's a great actor, and I think he'll do really well. My problem with it is that I don't know if I see him in this role. I think he'd be better as like a Silver Surfer, personally.
Silver Surfer.
My top choice for a Silver Surfer is Keanu, but I think if not him, I think Pedro Pascal would be really great.
What? Wait.
Yeah.
Keanu
Reeves would be a perfect Silver Surfer. Don't even tell me he wouldn't be.
Bro, where are you coming from?
He's got that. Just picture it, man. Just picture fucking. What the fuck is that movie called? Where he's like a surfer stuntman dude. Point Break. Just Point Break, but in the Marvel universe.
Bro, this is wild to me.
I think he'd be a perfect Silver Surfer. But regardless, I think Pedro Pascal would be really good as Silver Surfer. I think Marvel is like, yo, Pedro Pascal is really good at playing dads. And the rumor is that the Fantastic Four kids are going to be in this movie. So
okay.
I say I think that's what happened. It probably isn't, but that's like my mind when I heard that is like, okay, he played, he's playing a dad kind of in The Mandalorian. He's playing a kind of reluctant dad in Last of Us. So like he's been on a role of playing dads. So that's kind of where my mind immediately went to. I agree that I like Vanessa Kirby a lot for this. I think I would have preferred Jodie Comer, but Vanessa Kirby would have been like my second choice.
This is a tough one because I really like both of them.
Yeah.
In the end, I think I was leaning towards Vanessa Kirby. Honestly, yeah. I was leaning toward Vanessa Kirby, but I loved Jodie
Comer.
Yeah.
And then the choices I would have had for Reed would have been, I think Dev Patel would have been really good. He was kind of my number one. Yeah. He's been in the Green Knight, main actor in Monkey Man coming up. Yeah,
Monkey Man. Okay.
I think he would have been. I think he would have crushed it.
Okay. Well, what do you think about the Thing?
Love it. He was my top choice, so I'm really happy to see that
Yes,
I
think he's going to do really good about it. I really like him. So yeah,
it's hard to top Michael Chiklis in that role, but he is, I think, the best, the next best.
Yeah. And then Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm.
I think he'll do well. I think he would not have been my top choice either. I think if this were 10 years ago, I would have gone Zac Efron, no question. But he's probably a little bit too old for it. But again, I'm sure he'll do great.
I have no idea who this guy is. I'm trying to recognize his face, and I really don't. I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think I'm a little bit worried. Pedro Pascal also a little bit worried, right? Because Reed is supposed to be like more stuck up than like Tony, guy. And so it's like I'm worried about Pedro trying to do that because we haven't. Really...
I don't get that vibe from him. Like he's a great actor. I'm sure he can do it, but I just don't get that vibe from him. Yeah.
No, exactly. So that's another thing. But maybe that they don't write him off like that either. So we'll have to see how Marvel really does because in the Wanda in Doctor Strange 2, they didn't really write him off like that. To be fair,
they didn't write him essentially at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the Deadpool 3 trailer? Or Deadpool and Wolverine, I should say, is what it's actually called now. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know they were gonna throw the TVA in there. I'll say that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
I thought it was just gonna be some like huge fourth wall break from Deadpool himself. And...
I thought we'd see some other Marvel characters, but I didn't expect the TVA. But the TVA makes a lot of sense now that I have.
Yes, it does make a lot of sense. Yes.
I mean, they're clearly not holding back with the Deadpool stuff. It's still the trailer still felt very Deadpool.
It did.
Yeah,
it did. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still excited for it. So
yeah. Looking forward to seeing Wolverine again. I hope it is kind of like Deadpool kills the Fox universe and he just goes around like pruning all the Fox stuff. Yeah. All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. This is a show where every week we talk about the new comics that came out that week and we give our thoughts and opinions on them. The big thing here, of course, is the next entry in the Ultimate Universe. So that is what we're going to start with here. That being Ultimate Black Panther #1. I think I mentioned this last week. This was a very difficult issue to find. I guess the cover A in places was going for $40 on the day that it came out because it was just in such high demand. From what I understand, it seems like retailers were not expecting Ultimate Spider-Man to do as well as it did. And then because of the hype from that issue, this issue got a lot of hype behind it as well, partially. And so, like, they ordered less copies of this than they did for Ultimate Spider-Man, obviously, just Spider-Man and Spider-Man. And so they just ran out super quickly. So, I mean, there were only, like, variants left when I got to my shop. And even then, they were, like, there was, like, one left.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very, very high demand issue here. As far as the creative team goes, it is Brian Hill, who is also the current writer of Blade, and then Stefano Caselli, who is a great artist. He did a part of the run on X-Men Red, which is fantastic. And so this is it's picking up after Ultimate Universe. We got so there's the big thing here is that Khonshu and Ra, who I just are together making up Moon Knight in this universe. They've like taken over Africa, and so Wakanda, I guess, has not really kind of been like, hey, we exist yet. So there's some conflict where Shuri is like, hey, we need to help these people, and T'Challa's like, we got to keep it slow. Take it slow and not rush into things here, not rush into war. And then Okoye, who is married to T'Challa in this, is like, I agree with T'Challa, and that's kind of a lot of it. Although we do get we get him suited up at the very end of this issue, unlike in Ultimate Spider-Man. Question for you: what do you think of the new suit?
I don't mind it, except for that weird ass mouth slit.
Yep, that is exactly how I feel about it. I think it looks pretty cool. Although to be fair, like, it's not breaking much new ground in terms of Black Panther suits. Like, it looks pretty similar, except for the mouth bit, which is the worst part of the suit. I don't know. What do you think on this one?
I thought it was pretty good. I still think this Ultimate universe is still pretty good. So Khonshu and Ra, right? So instead, they're not exactly like it's not exactly like a Moon Knight type thing, because it's like they've taken over like a host in my it seems, and then they have like an army behind that, like they command essentially, right?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't
The
remember,
issue.
Yeah, but it's been a little while. Yeah. Listen, man, I'm busy. I don't remember a lot of stuff that we talked, unless it has to really kind of stick out, you know. And you might be asking yourself if you're listening to this, why should we listen to this if you don't even remember what you're talking about? That's a good question. I don't really know. So,
bro, man, just stayed silent. Just went. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, they're like controlling an army, not exactly Moon Knight specifically, but
yes,
yeah,
but according to the synopsis, they are the force that is together known as Moon Knight. So.
Yeah. We also saw Killmonger and we didn't specifically see Storm, but we know it is Storm. And then yeah, Killmonger. I think he might know Wakanda is a thing. It kind of insinuated a bit, in my opinion, from what he was talking about. And then yeah, he is actually fighting against the Moon. I'm just gonna call it the Moon Knight army, and yeah, he's backed by Storm in this. In this universe, I guess.
Yeah, T'Chaka died again.
Yes, T'Chaka died again because Khonshu and Ra. So I guess they do actually know that Wakanda exists, Khonshu and Ra. At first, I thought they didn't, but they actually do, because at the very end, I think it's the celebration of life is what they were celebrating.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then two essentially suicide bombers came in and was like for Khonshu and Ra, and I think T'Chaka pushed T'Challa out the way, and he got blown to bits. And so yeah, that's when T'Challa was like, "All right, we're at war."
Yeah,
that's pretty much it. He went to some weird seer dude that I don't really understand what that whole bit was about, but yeah, that was a thing, I guess.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, but still, it was. I mean, I liked it better than the other Black Panther comic I read, so.
I think this is fine. It's tricky because this one is also very much like setting up stuff for the future. Like it's not kind of it's I think bogged down by some of the setup that it has to do. I think this could turn into something that is very cool in the future, but I was a little bit less enthused on this one than I think most people were. I didn't quite gel with it as much as a lot of people seem to be, because it's doing very well. Like people seem to really like this one. But yeah, I wasn't quite that high. I think it was solid. I think it was like good enough, but not like a mind-blowing kind of thing here, which is why I gave this a 7 out of 10.
I gave it an 8. I enjoyed it. I think, it wasn't ever really boring. I guess there was one specific that was boring, and that was when he went to visit the seer, and the seer told him something.
I don't remember this part.
I don't remember the conversation they had at all. And I know T'Challa himself was iffy to even go, and it was T'Chaka that essentially forced him to go.
Oh yes, okay, I do remember that now. Yeah.
I don't remember what they talked about. I just remember he went and talked to them. But yeah, besides that, I enjoyed it. It had action, it had slow bits, it had politics, it had kind of everything in one go. Art is still good.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave it an 8. I'm gonna talk about the Cull number 5.
Okay.
And let's see here. Writer Kelly Thompson, artist Mattia de Lulis. And man, this series, right? This is the final issue of the series, and man, oh man, they end it on a low here.
Oh no.
One mention of the back rooms, which
for fuck's sake,
is so unfortunate. But man, did they really end it on a freaking low? I'm not gonna lie. So this entire issue was the 5 teens. Don't know their names still.
I know one of them is named Cleo. I think one is also named Katie.
Probably. But anyway, they 4 of them at first, right? Because Cleo doesn't have powers. It's only the other 4 that do.
Yeah, right.
And so they all start fighting the big monster that's in, their Earth or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're doing it, and they're learning how their powers work. They essentially all have kind of the same powers, but differentiating things. They can all shoot lasers out their eyes. They can all 2 of them grew wings. I'm assuming the rest can, but they didn't. I don't know entirely. One can control like vegetation in a sense, or at least like knows how. The other, I don't know exactly how their powers work. Never went into that. But yeah, they all can shoot lasers out their eyes. That's like the biggest thing here. That could shoot lasers out their eyes, right?
Okay.
And so they all start fight. The four of them start fighting it, and Cleo starts like basically just like panicking because she can't do anything. And so she eats like one of the fruits that gives her powers, and she gets like souped up essentially. Like she's like in like god mode right now. And so they all like combine into a giant monster, and they shoot a beam out of their chest and kill the bad monster.
Okay.
Then they go and find Cleo's parents, right, to tell her parents that like her little brother is like essentially dead, right? They discovered that he is dead. They put two and two together. And so they go, they find her parents, and her mom is like, "What'd you do to your hair? You must have changed it just so you could get through the security thing." And Cleo's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then right behind her mom, is her little brother. And then she like hugs him and is like, "Oh my gosh, you're alive." And then she kind of like backs up, looks at a photo, and then she starts freaking out, and everybody else is like, "Whoa," like her friends, not her parents, and they're gone at this point. The friends are like, "Whoa, what's going on? What's going on?" And then she's like, "No, this can't be." And then they look at the photo, and then it ends with, "We're not in our Earth." And they ended on a cliffhanger that was just so fucking dumb. It was so bad, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Fight scene wasn't bad actually. It was actually a bit better than I thought. They couldn't really do anything against the monster. They were just kind of like they were hurting it, but not enough to like really kill it until they all joined forces. And yeah, just the cliffhanger really at the end was what really got me and like what really brought this down for me. I would have rather they just ended it with like basically her like right because they came to the realization that her brother was dead, and I thought that was a good ending. Like, okay, that's the whole reason why we came in here in the first place, to figure out what happened to her brother. We learn he's dead. Just go talk to the parents. Be like, all right, he's dead. We have these powers. We help people. Whatever. Now it's like, is this gonna continue? I don't know. And I didn't like that at all. So I gave it a 5.
Okay, well, I suppose I will talk about Fantastic Four number 17. This is written by Ryan North. The artist here is Carlos Gomez. So I haven't talked about the last couple issues of this because I was behind by a couple issues. But I really liked 14, 15, and 16 for the most part. I think they were all pretty good. To great. And so this one is I got up to date on this one because I think the premise is very cool, which is that the Fantastic Four, they're doing some archaeological expedition. In particular, specifically, Sue is called in because she's an archaeologist, and the bones she finds are her own from the distant past, and so she has to now figure out what happened here. And so what it essentially comes down to is that a couple years in the future, Sue and Reed go on a date back to like early humans, just to like to it's like an anniversary date to show to take Reed over and like show him some of early human history and stuff. And so so then a spaceship lands in back in that time period. And you want to take a guess who pops out of there, Sebastian?
Ping ping pong.
No, it's fucking Rama Tut.
Who?
So I think we would have gotten to him, but he's a very early Fantastic Four villain. And for those of you who don't know, he's a version of Kang before Kang was Kang, but he's like an Egyptian pharaoh. I fucking hate Rama Tut. I saw him and I was like, oh no. The premise was so interesting, but you fucked it. So they kind of like they go back to the future and they make a plan to I will say the resolution is kind of clever actually, because their plan is essentially to trick Rama Tut into thinking that they are going to build like a time gun that rapidly accelerates your own aging process to the point where it'll essentially like go through, like it'll just kind of reduce you to dust because it kind of carries you through your entire timeline. I think it's something similar to that. And so that's their plan, but they know that that Ramatut is going to go to the future with them and see their plan and then like counter it. So Ramatut goes, counters the gun so that it actually then it doesn't work when Reed and Sue shoot it, but Ramatut's able to turn it back online and shoot Reed and Sue with it. But then what they do is that because Alicia is blind, they've all learned Braille. So Sue will make like invisible force fields with like small ones with Braille on them and put them up to Reed's fingers so he can know her plan. And then whenever she like, grabs his hand or something, he'll use his elasticity to like raise bumps on his skin and Braille so she can read that and kind of they can communicate that way, which is a really clever idea. And so they they do that, and so they essentially made it so that they like get clones of themselves and then put them in the past, and then Sue like makes her and Reed invisible, and then like they're not clones, they're like kind of like life model decoys, they're kind of replicas of them, to make it seem that they die, but then they don't, and they're able to just escape. So that's the issue, and I think the resolution is quite clever. I think the setup is very cool. I just don't like Ramatut, so I was pretty disappointed by this one because of that. But I do think there are enough points in here where I do think it's more good than bad. So I gave it a 6, but I was still kind of disappointed by this one.
All right, we're going Avengers number 10.
It is written by Jed MacKay. The artist is C.F. Villa here. I think this issue's pretty good. I think this is a pretty decent step up, actually, in terms of this series, because it finally feels like there's some legitimate progression of stuff here. And I think what's also works for this one is they kind of split up the Avengers, in the sense that they only focus on a couple of them, right? They have a little bit of focus on Carol and Tony, and then a little bit of focus on Thor and Wanda. The first half of this issue is essentially Murden and Kane kind of doing exposition at each other. They're kind of talking about all the stuff they're going after. In particular, they are talking about the missing moment, which was referenced in the issue Timeless just over a year ago in December 2022, where Kane and Murden are both trying to get to this missing moment because there's something in there that they think is very valuable, and they want to try and see what it is for themselves. The problem is only heroes can unlock the missing moment, I believe, by passing the tribulation events, right? That's the idea here. Yeah. So they can, if they pass essentially if the Avengers pass the tribulation events, then they will be able to unlock the missing moment, and Kane will try and weasel his way in there and see what it's all about. Except the thing is, Murden is like, I'm not gonna let you do that, obviously. So I'm just gonna erase your memory of the tribulation events and also of the missing moment. So you will know that I took your memory, but you won't know what I took, essentially, is kind of what it seems to be. And then he gets pissed off, and then he's like, fuck you, Avengers. I'm your enemy again. And then the other half of the issue is Wanda and Thor going to confront Nightmare in the Nightmare Realm. And so they're essentially like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Like, why were you really down here a little bit ago? And he's like, yeah. And they essentially, like, they're like, oh, you're not doing this just because you, like, want to, right? You're not trying to, like, be a weird nightmare demon. You're doing it because you are an addict to other people's fear. And so he's like, yeah, but everything I told you was still true. The end of this cosmos is coming, and the Avengers will either be the ones to stop it or the ones to cause it. And that's essentially what the issue is. So, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I do still think, I think the first half is not perfect, because I do think, like, and I get that not everyone will have read Timeless, and that's totally fine. I get one to catch people up with that. But I have read it, so I kind of knew all this. I had kind of forgotten about a lot of it, but hearing them saying it, I was like, okay, yeah, I remember all this. Yeah. And I think the way they were talking about it was a little bit just kind of info dumpy, to the point where I was a little bit like, okay, this isn't amazing. But I was glad that they at least were kind of progressing the plot forward of that conversation a little bit, or at least like bringing the plot back into focus, even if it's not necessarily progressing. I did really like the back half with Wanda and Thor and Nightmare, though. I thought that was really good. I actually wanted to ask you how you feel about that now, because I know when he showed up the first time, you were like, what is Nightmare doing here? Like, how does he fit into all this?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about his inclusion now? Yeah.
Right. So let me just say this. This issue as a whole, I did not like the first half at all. I thought it was bad. I don't know why we built up Murden, and I thought, like, I don't know. I felt like they built up Murden so much just for him to just be like, and you're forgetful now, and I'm out. And I was just like, okay, but that really okay, I guess but we know now that he's also after the missing moment, which that's some context, I guess. But I don't know. I thought we'd get more from him, especially after Twilight Core, all that stuff. But
yeah,
whatever. And then I actually really enjoyed the Nightmare bit in this one. Actually, I know I still like now that we have more context as to why he was there earlier. I don't mind it as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Basically it was just like obviously it was always happenstance. I think
it was kind of he was trying to warn them, just in the
I'm
only
just
way
saying,
he
like,
knew how. Yeah,
like how Thor and Wanda mentioned when they met with him, like, were you working with the Twilight Core? He's like, no, that was just like happenstance. Like they just took me going to you guys as like a time to strike. And I always thought, like, from the beginning, it was like, okay, he's obviously in league with the Twilight Court, and that's how they like made it seem, right? But now we know that that's not really the case, and that he was really just trying to like essentially warn them, right? Because he showed them essentially his biggest fear, which is the end of the world, or at least humanity in general.
Right. Because then he will not be able to get his hits off of other people's nightmares.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I thought that whole conversation between Thor and Wanda and Nightmare was just great, especially when Wanda made the point that, like, you're talking to the Allfather and the living Darkhold. Like, we're on equal, like, power levels. So she's like, don't bullshit us, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, so, I really enjoyed that second half, but that first half was just bad. I didn't like it at all.
I don't know, the way I thought of this is I think the first half is about a 6 out of 10 for me. I think the second half is like an 8 out of 10. So I just met in the middle and went with a 7.
Gotcha. Yeah. I gave it a 6. If I had to rate it, I'd give like the back half. Honestly, I'd give it like a 9, and then the first half, I'd probably give it like a 5.
Okay.
So if I met in the middle there, that'd be a 7, I believe.
Yeah, which is what I did.
Yeah, so in the end, it's still we're in the same.
I will move on here to I'm going to talk about Dark Souls: The Willow King, issue number 1. This is written by George Mann, and the artist is Man House. So this is set in the universe of the Dark Souls game, which is why I picked it up, because I love the Dark Souls games. I don't love 2 as much, but I mostly still love all 3. This one is kind of a funky one because, first of all, the art's great. There's some really, really cool kind of double-page spreads. There's a really cool monster design in there that I feel like would be a really good like actual boss in these games. Although I think it would fit more with Bloodborne than Dark Souls, maybe. But I think the art still works really well. I think it has a good vibe going here. So the story is essentially there's a king who linked the flame, which is essentially, if you don't know, every so often the fire that kind of keeps the world going is in danger of going out, so then someone has to go and link the flame to keep the world going, or they can just let it die, and then the universe kind of dies, and then somebody else can grow from that afterwards. So this king linked the flame, and so this was after somebody, like one of his like subjects, tried to link the flame, but he wasn't able to do it, and he got burned to ashes. And so now we're at the time where there's another cycle, so it's now somebody has to link the flame again, but the king has kind of been consumed by just like, I don't know, something, and so he's like, I'm not gonna link the flame. And so that dude who went to try to link it initially and failed, his name is Harad, he gets resurrected as an unkindled, and then he recruits down 3 other dudes who he's like, let's go and link this flame. And they fight a big monster boss thing at the end, which is really cool. That's a cool art section. The art in general is just really cool. I didn't love the story. I think it was okay, but it was so narration heavy for the first half. Like the first, even 2/3, I would say, was kind of all narration and not really any dialogue. And so I was just sitting there kind of like, okay, I get we're setting stuff up, but I'm kind of just like, this is, I don't know. There's no character interaction here, so it wasn't really all that engaged. It picks up maybe a little bit towards the end when they do that big boss fight, and they kind of start talking more to each other in terms of dialogue. But I still don't think it was anything amazing. That said, the art really does carry it, and, I love this world that it's set in. I always love anything kind of set in this universe. So I did ultimately come away enjoying this more than I didn't. I gave it a 7. A lot of that is because of the art, but I think it was all right, and I'm definitely going to plan to keep going with this. But not an amazing first issue here.
All right, I guess I will talk about Shazam, number 8. Writer is Mark Waid. Artist is Goran Sudzuka. Yeah. And all right. So yeah, last issue we saw that he essentially destroyed his house by fighting Black Adam, and in this issue we see that get resolved, right? So it begins with essentially him going and telling his family that he destroyed his house, and so obviously they're distraught, and his foster father tells him, like, Billy, listen, it's not just the house you destroyed. With the house gone, once the agency knows that we essentially don't have a place to live, they're gonna take all of you away from us. So he's like, I just destroyed this family. And so he uses the wisdom of Solomon to come up with kind of a plan to fix it. First, he takes his little sister, Darla, to the space auditors with Mr. Dinosaur to try and resolve that whole issue. And the way he solves this issue is by leaving Darla up there with the other auditors, and basically the main auditor would say something, and Darla would just respond with why. And that just kept going on and on and on. And so Billy then flew back down to Earth, and he went and met with Zeus, basically asking Zeus to rebuild their house. And he's begging Zeus to do this, and that's when Black Adam comes in. He's like, listen, I have nothing to do with you, Zeus, but we should fix this. This is also partly my fault. And so Black Adam, as Black Adam and Zeus are talking, Billy leaves again and goes back to Darla. That's when the main auditor tells Billy, get them out of here. You can keep the dinosaur. It's fine. Just get her off my ship, essentially. We're going to leave. And so, Billy takes both of them back to the house that was rebuilt like nothing ever happened. And, Billy goes to apologize to his neighbors, but it turns out Zeus not only rebuilt their house, but, erased the minds of, that their house was even destroyed in the first place, of everybody that was around that knew about it. So that's another thing. And so yeah, that's I'm trying to remember if that's how it ended. Did anything else big happen? No, Billy just goes and basically says thanks to Black Adam, and yeah, that's it. Pretty alright issue. It was no real action or anything like that. It was just a lot of talking and flying and stuff like that. But other than that, it was pretty good. Art still fine, hasn't changed yet, I believe.
It changed in issue number 7.
Did it change? Oh, okay. Well, from issue number 7, then it didn't change.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it's still pretty alright. Why did you drop this one? Which one was changing? Was it the art or was it the?
So coming in issue number 10, the writer is leaving, and
it was the writer. Yeah, that's right.
But the artist has also left, and it was their combo that kind of was the reason I was reading that book.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty alright, so I gave it a 7.
Well, I guess I will talk about I think this is the last book that I read that you did not read, and that is You and I, issue number 1. This is written by J. Michael Straczynski. The artist here is Mike Choi. It is set in the Resistance universe, which is a series over at AWA. It's so included in that as the Resistance, a couple of Resistance series. There's also, I think there's a series called Moths in there, and then the Erratic series is in there as well. I have not read any of that. I'm going into this completely fresh. So it's essentially some dude wakes up in a hospital. His name is You. He has no memory of anything. He has insane amnesia, but he has powers. And then there's another character named Isabel, who is the I in this You and I series. And by the way, when I say You, I mean the letter U and not UYOU. So Isabel, there's a lot of context here that I don't entirely understand, as it's kind of been set up and other stuff. But I guess there was an event a while back called the Great Death, where a lot of people died, and then a lot of other people got sick, and they got better, and when they got better, they had superpowers. So Isabel got sick, got better, but has no powers, but nobody believes her, because everybody else got powers. So nobody will hire her and stuff. She's essentially homeless, even though her dad died and left her a bunch of inheritance. but her uncle is like, no, he left it all to me. Like, you can't have the money. So she's kind of, going around. She's homeless. She's trying to survive. And then Yu is he's got powers, and so he kind of goes. There's a bit of an action sequence where he goes and beats up a bunch of people who are like essentially they're running a protection racket, and this one dude didn't pay, and then he left town, so they go and they're like going to kill his wife, but then Yu steps in and is like, no, and then he beats them up. He also has these kind of weird like vision kind of, it feels like it's played like as a hallucination, but it's kind of the way he perceives the world is kind of in this very fantastical kind of way. So so then he has that kind of action sequence, and that's about it. It was a lot of panels with no dialogue, so it was kind of a quick read. I thought it was pretty decent, though. It's not amazing, not breaking the wheel or anything. It's from the same writer as the Madness and the current Captain America series, so I'm kind of mixed on him overall. But I think this is a decent enough start. It's gonna be a 6-issue miniseries. Give it a 7. I thought it was not bad.
All right. I mean, hey, sounds interesting. I'm all about small universe things.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. What do we want to talk? Let's go. Buttman number 42.
This is Batman number 142. It is written by Chip Zdarsky. There's a couple of artists on here. One of them is Andrea Sorrentino. The other one is Giuseppe Camuncoli. So essentially, it's the art is called Joker Year One. There is part of that, so like early days of the Joker, that's the stuff that's drawn by Giuseppe Camuncoli. And then there's kind of a framing sequence set, I guess, in the future, it kind of seems like, that's drawn by Andrea Sorrentino. And my God, those sections are incredible. Like that art there, just so good, so weird and creepy. He's the same guy who's drawing the Bone Orchard Mythos Tenement series, which I really like, and I think his art is fantastic. So when he's drawing it in this issue, I think this issue is very good. It's very creepy, and yeah, Bruce is talking about Joker is, he's off the rails again, and it ends with everybody turns into the Joker. It's like an army of Jokers. But then there's the main part of the story, which I think is pretty rough. And I think a big part of that is because this is called the Joker Year One, but it's kind of a sequel to like 4 different comics. Like, I guess a big part of it is a sequel to Batman Year Zero, which I have not read. So a lot of this, I was like, what the fuck is happening? And so it's kind of like Joker very recently after falling into the chemical vat, and he's kind of trying to avoid becoming the Joker, but the Joker kind of keeps like taking over. So there's a scene in like a bar where there's some guys who are like, they're talking, and I think one of them makes a joke or something, or maybe he doesn't, maybe he just says something like random, and then Joker's like, don't say anything, just like don't, and then like Joker, like the Joker like persona pops in and is like ha ha ha, and then he starts like making fun of them and like making jokes, and they start really beating him up and everything. That's kind of the only thing I remember from this. I know he goes and talks to some person. I'm assuming it's a romantic interest of his in the past, but I don't know that for a fact because I don't remember this. All that I don't know the context here. There's kind of some brief in passing references to the Killing Joke. I think this is before the Killing Joke, but I don't know. And there's some images from that comic in here. So I don't remember a lot of what happened in here. It's very disjointed. I wasn't a huge fan of this one.
Yeah. This one is, for me, it was like super hard to follow, and like the whole the Red Hood, like him trying to keep the Joker persona in part, like that part for me was easy to follow. It was understandable, but then like when we would just like all of a sudden like split to like like that, like what you said might be the future thing.
Yeah.
Like was super confusing. I took it as, right, how they said, or it looked after he had fallen to the vat and after he had like crawled out, whatever, and he like took off the red hood and stuff like that. I remember specifically reading in this one that like his mind had like split into like 4 Jokers or whatever.
Yeah, so that's the other thing I was about to mention. This is also kind of a sequel to Batman 3 Jokers, because they do kind of make mention on that. Yeah,
exactly. And so it seemed like they were fighting up top of the hill, whatever. But like to me, it seemed like they were splitting the story between the 3 Jokers.
Maybe
that's what I took it as.
It might be, yeah.
I don't entirely know. It was like it's just like you said. Like it was just like there wasn't really an explanation. It was just like switch randomly. Like there was no connection, but to me at least, there wasn't really a connection between them at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the one like for me, I think I liked it the most simply because it was easiest to follow. Was the trying to keep the Joker persona in, like him going to, I don't remember if it was his wife or girlfriend at the time when he like donned the Red Hood like helm or whatever.
Yeah.
But him going back to her after the fact and being like, someone's chasing me, like I can't be with you right now.
Yeah.
Like, and that obviously being the Joker himself, like that, like to me was just like really good. And then
see, but I got thrown there too. Then she seemed like really confused. That other dude popped out and was like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "I don't know." So
right.
Like, do they even know each other?
Like, oh fuck, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That wasn't actually her.
Well, it might have been though. I don't know. It might have, she was just like brushing it off and not telling the other dude about it. But it might have been a different person. I have no idea. That's the thing, because I haven't read that other stuff, so I don't know.
Well, right. So like I'm taking it from like the Killing Joke, because in that one specifically, you see that he is with a person before the whole Joker thing happens. So that's where I was getting that knowledge from.
Sure, yeah.
And so that's where I thought she was from, but I completely forgot that other dude came out after he left. I completely forgot about that.
So I don't know if that's the same, if she's the same person or not.
Yes.
But that threw me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no, yes. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that's throwing me my head now.
Yeah.
But besides that, like him like trying to keep the Joker in, and then him meeting up with one of his old henchmen from the Red Hood gang in that bar specifically, and him still trying to keep the Joker in while he's meeting him, but then running away when he sees Batman, right?
Yeah.
Because he's still traumatized from being Red Hood. Yeah, and then that's where I think the Joker finally takes over at the very end, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for me, it's like the most memorable stuff, and the stuff that I was most interested in was the future stuff. And I think that was partially because of the art, but I also think that story is kind of interesting. And I think the writing there combined with the art makes it really creepy and atmospheric and cool. But yeah, I don't know. This was a weird one.
It's a very weird one.
Yeah. I just think it's very strange that like something that is kind of positioning itself as like almost an origin story in quotes is so reliant on so much other comic backstory for you to kind of fully understand. So I had this at a 7 initially. I think that was just because I have Chips and RC bias. I mean, as I've said before, he's essentially my favorite writer in comics right now. But I'm gonna drop it to a 6. I think it's just not a very great start to this arc.
Yeah. I have this as a 6. It's gonna stay at a 6. Hopefully, like it's like you said, like it's just we need so much other, like you need so much other knowledge for this to like really make sense, and that's what I don't like, because I thought like going into this like Joker Year 1, I thought okay, we're finally to get like a legitimate origin for Joker, like a specific one, because there's like multiple at this point out there.
I was really worried about that, actually. I think the Joker should not have a definitive origin. But
you don't want him to have one?
No, I think it works better if we don't know, and he's just some guy that we don't know the past of. I think it adds to his character.
Like, I don't specifically want to know like his name or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, but I would like it to be like, okay, he became Joker because he fell as Red Hood, he fell into the vat, yada yada. But like, I think there's like 3 different ones. Like, there's the Red Hood one, and there's like 2 others that I don't know. I just know specifically the Red Hood one.
I did not know, because I knew that there was, back in the Rebirth era of DC, I knew there was the whole 3 Joker thing. But I figured that was no longer a thing. I did not know that there were still 3 Jokers. So
yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, not great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go talk about The One Hand.
All right.
This is issue number 1 of The One Hand. It is written by Ram V. The artist is Lawrence Campbell. This is the start of a new series over at Image. I really like the idea behind this, because this side of it, The One Hand, is about a detective trying to find a serial killer. And there's another series coming out in a little bit called The Six Fingers, which is it's the same narrative, but from the perspective of the serial killer, and kind of their narratives as they kind of weave together. And it's really interesting, and it's a really cool idea. That being said, I didn't love this. I thought it was decent. I think it's very well written. I think the dialogue and the writing is very good. I just didn't gel with it initially. Because, it is essentially this detective. His name is Ari. He is essentially he's like he essentially has retired. He has had a retirement party. This is his last day. But then on this day, the one hand killer shows up. There's a murder, and it's got all the signatures of the one hand killer, which is a serial killer that Ari has already taken down twice previously.
Yes.
So he's like, fuck. He's like, I need to be like, I need to do this. I need to, be a part of taking this guy down. And so yeah, so he gets put on it, and he gets like a partner for it, because they're like, we're not sending you alone on this. Like, you should not even be working on this at all, because you're about to retire. And so, but they haven't sent in the paperwork yet. So like, he's still technically a detective. So yeah, we see him, and then the rest of it's just kind of him going through, kind of trying to piece some clues together. He does figure out that it's not the same killer, because this guy has 6 fingers. Every time that he trades, because there's a signature like handprint that he the serial killer draws or spray paints onto the wall whenever he kills anybody. So yeah, this one has a little 6th kind of finger imprint on there, but everything else is pretty much the same. Like the cipher that he puts on the wall, like that's all the same. There's a new bit added here, but that's all stuff that nobody, like no civilian, no member of the public had access to that. So they're like, who the hell is this? And so that's kind of the extent of this issue. Again, I think it's also like set like 700 years in the future as well. That's something I forgot to mention. Yes. It's set like the 2800s. So actually, that'd be 800 years in the future. So I like the vibe of this series a lot. I like the world. I like the vibe, and I like the. I think the writing is good. I think just the setup is a little bit slow, and I think that's fine, because it's kind of what the story is doing. It's paced very deliberately, but it was slow enough to the point where it wasn't really clicking with me right yet. So that's kind of, yeah. I do think it was very well written. I think it's very solid. Ron V's a very solid writer. He's written a lot of good stuff. So I'm very interested to see where this goes. But I'm not sure if I'm 100% invested on this one yet.
All right. Well, I actually really enjoyed this one. I think, yeah, the world they set up is great. I think not the idea behind the serial killer, but like him coming, it's not even coming out of retirement. He never technically went into retirement in the first place. But him like stopping his retirement simply to stop this killer, like essentially one last time.
Yeah.
Interesting story. I think the way he found out about like the possibility of a 6th finger, because at first they just like threw it off as like, obviously it's a copycat, like he messed up, but then he kind of like realized that that's not actually a mess up, that he might actually just have a 6th finger. That throws in a whole like new like side to this story that like could open up so much more, especially as a detective, So yeah, I think I really enjoyed it. I really liked the story, and I like the whole idea behind it. So I gave it an 8.
I think that's all, like, that's totally, I agree with you on pretty much everything you just said there. It didn't click with me 100% yet, so I gave it a 6.
Yeah. Captain America.
All right. Let's see here. I'm gonna stop doing that before I get back into the Australian accent shit of last week. That was so hard to fucking edit. I wanted to cut all of it out, but I made like my main point about that issue while I was still talking with an Australian accent. So I was like, shit, I have to cut this. I have to keep this in. And then you dropped out of it, but I kept going for a little bit, and I sounded like such a dumbass. That was a painful edit. Anyway, this issue, Captain America #6, it's written by J. Michael Straczynski. The artist is Len Medina. This is what I made you read this week. You have been not a fan of the series. I haven't really liked it that much either, but I liked it more than you generally. Now that this is the end of the first arc, what do you think about this one?
Like the series or just the arc?
The issue, and also the series and the arc are the same thing at this point, since there's only been the one arc.
I guess that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, how are you feeling about the issue, and then also if it changed your opinions on the series as a whole?
Well, first of all, it hasn't changed my opinion on the series basically at all. Yeah, no, still don't really like it. Yeah, I think I feel like, again, they're defeating these people just a bit too easily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Still. Like, there's just no fight.
There is much more of a fight in this issue.
Yes, there is an actual fight in this issue, but like I'm talking about like a fight between them, right? Because at first, it's not even like Captain America's not even trying to really fight back. He's just defending, right? Because Doctor Strange, in the doll form, is like Steve, distract him. I have a way to defeat him. Just give me a minute. And Steve's like, all right. So it's like Steve's not even fighting. It's just distracting him. Stalling, blah, 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 while he's getting knocked around. And at the very end, Doctor Strange's plan was to give Steve the Eye of Agamotto. It's just like, it just changed everything. Like, all of a sudden, the shield, like even Steve himself was just so much stronger than him, which I don't really understand. Like, I understand the Eye of Agamotto is like super powerful mystical artifact or whatever, but like I don't see how just that can like turn the tides that much. Like
I get that.
The demon literally couldn't even do anything after that.
Right.
Like it just got expelled and that was it.
It's strange because, like, last issue, Doctor Strange was like, I don't know how to beat him. Let me get back to you on that. And it's like, if the answer is just the Eye of Agamotto, it's like, is that not the first thing you think? You use the fucking Eye of Agamotto for fucking everything. That should be the first thing you think of.
Yeah, so, I just think, I don't know. I don't want to call it lazy per se, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, man. It felt pretty lazy to me. I don't write comics, so I really don't know.
You're saying you could do much better than this?
No, I could not write half the shit these people do. I daydream a lot. Don't get me wrong, and I come up with stories, but to turn those stories that actually make sense, I don't think I can do it. But let's see. Arc as a whole also didn't really like it that much. I mean, I didn't like the flashback stuff that much. I didn't mind it in this issue.
I think the flashbacks were great in this issue. Actually.
I thought it was actually really good. It was basically Steve getting the bomb out of the city that was in the van, the armored van, which I thought was really great.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. Maybe because there wasn't a lot of talking in the flashback that I thought it was good. I really don't know.
I will say it seems like this is going to be the last issue of the flashbacks because Steve, they're trying to get the bomb out, but the doors are, it's very heavily armored van, and like the doors are like completely shut. They can't get in there, and the window, they can break through the windshield, but none of the mobsters can fit through it. So Steve is like, I will go in there and drive this into the river. He goes in. Steve drives into the river, but I think it's really works, and it's also like it's the most Captain America thing ever. Like it shows why he is Captain America, and then at the end, he wakes up in the hospital. And they're like, you have not very much time left to live because everything is wrong with you. And now you just drove into a river and we're down there for kind of a while. So you're probably not going to live that much longer. And then we have, from off panel, we hear Dr. Abraham Erskine's voice, who's the guy who created the Super Soldier Serum. So I'm assuming now it's like we have gotten to the point where there's not going to be any more flashbacks because they're about to do the actual origin. And so I think they're just going to cut it there for flashbacks. So I think we're going to be just in the present day from now on.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I don't really like the whole demon thing, which is still going on even after this issue. So
kind of, but maybe not this demon.
It still says Asmodee, so.
No, I mean, I just mean, like, I don't know if he's going to be going, I don't know if he's going to be sticking around going forward. Because next issue says that Steve learns that Asmodee's defeat has unleashed a new threat that only Steve can stand against that will send ripples across the Marvel Universe. So I think they're kind of, Yeah. So I don't think this is great, but I do think it is a substantial step up from the previous two issues, which I did not like at all. I think this was decent. I think even though the whole Eye of Agamotto power-up doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I love that image where like it shoots in and then attaches to the center of the shield and then you see it. I think that looks really cool. And yeah, I think the flashback stuff was really effective in this to the point where it has reshaped my opinion on the arc because I think now, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, I kind of appreciate the flashback stuff more than the present day stuff because it kind of felt like more quintessential Captain America Steve Rogers than the present day stuff did. Where I've said about this before, but I think he kind of seems out of character in the present day stuff. But I didn't mind this issue. I think this kind of did give me some more, not necessarily faith, but I'm kind of more interested to see where it's going forward. And I have some kind of more confidence a little bit that I could come around to the series eventually. So yeah, I didn't mind this one too much. I give it a 6.
I also give it a 6. Yeah.
And so we're gonna talk about Thanos.
The news.
Yeah, Thanos number 3, written by Christopher Cantwell, and the artist is Germán Peralta. Okay, here's in with this. This feels closer to a Thanos comic than the last issue did.
Yes.
The problem is, first of all, every time the Illuminati are on page, I fucking hate them. They're so annoying. They're just making these dumb jokes back and forth to each other. I just don't think it works. I don't think it's funny. So that stuff, I don't think that works at all. The other part of this, because they kind of do a bit more of a fight in Fresno, whatever. Thanos is trying to like wake up Death by killing her, yes. And then she becomes Death again. But the main part of this issue is focused on why Death is now living as a human. Mm-hmm. And essentially boils down to the fact that somebody died, and so a person who was close to that person went in and like broke into Death's realm, even though she was just a normal human. And so she was like, "Hey, you took this person too early. Like give her back and everything." And then that got Death thinking, and she's like, "I want to like know what it's like to live and die as a human." So she asked the Illuminati to do that for her, to turn her human and give her a human life for a little bit. And in return, she would share the knowledge of like a planet-ending threat that is on the way. Is it the same one that is being talked about in the Avengers series? I don't know. And so that's kind of what that is. And then she gets really pissed off at Thanos because she turns back into Death. I just thought this one was kind of boring. Like, it's less ridiculous and goofy than the last one, because most of it is focused on flashbacks where the Illuminati are not present. But I just thought it was kind of dull. I didn't care,
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So Death specifically isn't mad at Thanos like for turning her back into a human per se. She got mostly mad at him because Thanos killed the person that like broke into her realm in the first place.
Oh, and, yeah, that also happened. Yeah.
Death, that really pissed her off. I don't remember why. She had a reason, I remember, but I don't remember specifically why.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Death turned into Roberta, the one that was supposedly taken like too early, whatever. That's what everybody always says, how it is.
But her name was Marie in the past life or something, I think.
Exactly. And she went to the Illuminati to do this, and it was Tony specifically that was like, all right, we'll do this for you, but what do we get out of it?
Yeah.
And so Death was like, all right, I will tell you this, like, essentially like planet ender. It's not like this is how your world is like gonna die, and it's coming, and if you do this for me, I will tell you. And then Tony's like, all right, well, just tell us and we'll do it. She's like, nah, you'll do this first and then I'll tell you. And like that's how it works. But yeah, Thanos, I don't know, man, this one, it's like you said, it is just boring. It really is.
And the thing is, like, this concept I think is interesting. Like, I think conceptually this should be cool. I think it's a cool idea. I just don't think in execution it works. Also, by the way, I think I also forgot to mention there's another artist on this, Ludo Pizzari. I just want to make sure I threw that in there. But I just think it's just the concept is kind of interesting from that angle. I think the concept for the rest of the series kind of sucks, but I think that concept is interesting, but it's just kind of not executed in a way that's all that interesting for me. I don't know. Wasn't really into this one.
Also, the Thanos pickup truck got destroyed, which was very sad.
Thank God.
So sad. But next issue, it's gonna be Death versus Thanos, essentially.
Great cover, by the way, for issue number 4.
Yes, great cover. But hopefully that one's not as boring as this one. But I gave it a 6. I'm gonna drop it to a 5. I'm gonna give it a 5.
I have it at 5. Anyway, I think we only have the one left, and that is Birds of Prey. So this is the finale of this first arc, is Birds of Prey number 6. It's written by Kelly Thompson. The artist is Leonardo Romero. And the colorist is Jordi Blair. This is back to the same artist team that I have been complaining about in terms of the coloring is just bizarre. It's all dark all the time, and you can't tell what's happening. The colors are all like each panel only has like one color a lot of the time, and so it just kind of makes it hard to tell what's going on. That being said, I like this issue a lot. I think this is a step back up to not maybe quite the heights of this arc, but I think it's back on track to the stuff I've liked in this arc. I will say, because they defeat Megara in this, kind of. What happens is that Megara and Sin have kind of a mind fight, and ultimately Megara's like, okay, you can stay and control Sin. You can keep control over your physical form. I will just live through you. I will kind of be in your head and kind of be able to experience the things that you experience. And so that's kind of how the Megara plot gets wrapped up. I think it's a little bit anticlimactic, but it was written well enough that I didn't really mind. But then we get into the really cool part where where Barbara comes back and is like, you know, I'm happy to see Sin, who's Dinah's sister for anybody who doesn't know. But then she's kind of pissed at the Birds of Prey, particularly at Dinah for not including her on the mission. But then we find out from Meridian, who I think everybody calls Maps for some reason. She's like, yeah, the reason you cannot bring Barbara is because every time, like, we've tried to do this before, because she's from the future. Or she's some weird time traveler where she can, like, reset the timeline or something. I don't know. She's like, every time, I think it was like they tried 11 missions. Every time every time that Barbara was with them, Barbara died. There were a couple of missions where some other characters also died, but Barbara died every time. No matter what they did, they could not save Barbara. So they were like, we cannot bring Barbara. And so they kind of, the implication is that there is another person out there who is like essentially hunting probably all the Birds of Prey, but in particular Barbara. Yes. And now they're going to try and kind of figure out how, like, who that is and how to fix this so that, you know, she's able to stay alive. And then so at the end, they're like, we're going to need a new team to kind of deal with this. So it looks like Cass is going to stay on board, and maybe, I mean, Meridian will be there. Maybe Barda, because she's on the cover for an issue coming up in April, I think. But yeah, so that's kind of where this issue goes. What did you think of this one?
I also really enjoyed this one. I think I don't really have a lot to say on it. Besides the fact that, I just really enjoyed this one. I enjoyed the way they ultimately ended it. You know, I think the whole Wonder Woman bit with Megara at the end was also interesting. You know, her like revealing basically like, I am just gonna live inside of Sin, and basically that's pretty much it. Like I assume Sin has like some sort of powers now, because that's what she's always wanted.
Yeah.
Has never had. So I assume with Meg inside of her, she has something. Whatever that is, I don't know. But I would assume if she has some sort of demon living inside of her, she can do something.
Yeah.
So, you know, I assume she's also going to be a part of the new Birds of Prey. Especially since...
Maybe,
Especially since Dinah specifically said, like, I'm going to keep, like, a close eye on her to, I believe, Maps. I don't remember exactly who.
Probably.
But yeah. So I thought this one was really good. I don't really have a lot to say on the art specifically.
Yeah. I've said my piece on this art before.
Yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much it. I gave it what did I give it? I gave it an 8.
I also gave it an 8. This is my pick of the week. I liked it quite a bit. I think this is also the only 8 out of 10 I gave this week. Everything else was below. So that kind of gives you a good idea of what I thought about this week in comics.
Yeah.
Anyway, though, that'll wrap up this episode. Next week, we've got some more stuff. We have more Batman. Woohoo! More Joker Year 1. Fantastic. We got Action Comics. I like that first issue of this arc quite a bit. We have more Blade. I've been thinking that's been pretty good so far. As of late, I should say. I didn't love the start. The finale of Blood Commandment is next week. We also have the finale of Bloodborne: The Bleak Dominion next week. We have Blue Beetle. We have the finale of Daredevil: Black Armor. We've got the new issue of Transformers, new issue of Green Lantern, and then also the new issue of Vengeance of the Moon Knight, which I'm very excited for. That should be a good one. So that's what I'm pulling. What are you? Anything you want to shout out over there on your end?
Right, we got more Spider-Gwen Smash, Superior Spider-Man, as well as Batman and Robin.
Thank you everybody for watching or listening. That'll wrap it up for this episode. If you are on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like on the video, of course. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of our content. You can also hit the bell notification if you'd like to be notified when we post new videos so you do not miss one. You can also leave us a comment, let us know what you think about the current state of comics and kind of what some of your favorite series are, what some of your least favorite series are, what some of the stuff you're looking forward to is. If you're on Spotify and you would like to let us know what you're thinking about comics currently, you can do so at earthsmightestcomicsPod@gmail.com. That's our email address. And then you can also follow the show over there to make sure that you don't miss an episode on Spotify. So like I said, that will do it for this week. Thank you everybody again for watching or listening, and we will see you in the next episode.